Hello, everyone. This is Claudiu Murgan, the host of the Spiritual Inspire show. And my guest today is Matt Flugger. Matt is a gifted psychic, sacred journey guide and healer, a student of spiritual healing for over 20 years. He has a refined, lucid connection to higher dimensional illumination that allows him to access the narrative and energetic structures of his clients directly. Matt has traveled the world exploring holy sites and sacred modalities in pursuit of knowledge and experience to support this unique ability. It has been a transformative, invaluable schooling which clarified his relationship with divine power and helped to deepen the foundational integrity of his practice. He has been honored with a dedicated training in psychic arts and navigation from one of the preeminent instructors practicing in the US. He studied shamanic technology with the Harner School and has danced with Master Shaman G. Marquet of Reno, del Sol Ubandaime de Brazil. Additionally, he has been mentored by the wisdom keepers of an ancient lineage of Amazonian psychocartographers and is an initiated facilitator in the global community those teachers created. Matt works in person and remotely, serving clients all over the world. Matt, thank you for joining me today.
No problem. How you doing?
I'm fine. I know that you left out something important in your life. You are a very talented musician. You play with known bands and work for a well-known entertainment company. All this is behind you now. Why you decided not to pursue the benefits of the corporate ladder?
Oh, that's a funny question. It's kind of like you're watching everyone play musical chairs on the deck of the Titanic, and the circle keeps getting smaller and smaller, and everyone keeps getting more and more ambitious and forgetful. And this just had more of a payoff for me. I found that whenever I went into any room or any place in this work, I always kind of found friends right away. I'm not leaving it forever. If they hire me, I'll definitely work for them for a bit. But it was a decade of studio work for a while there. That was very interesting. So
when did you decide, or when did you figure out that you have certain sensibilities and you can do this type of work?
It's really funny. The way these things feel is kind of like the world. You have a secret that the world wants you to share with it in a way. When I was a kid, my grandmother and I used to play psychic hide and seek. So she had a connection, and she would take things and hide them places in her apartment, and that I'd go in and find them right away. And we used to play this game. She had all these 45s, like Elvis 45s and everything, which I loved. And so she'd always be hiding them, and this is how we discovered the game. And I'd always find them immediately. And she'd be like, "Oh, come on." And then, life goes on, and you start having kind of really interesting moments where you're finishing sentences for people, or someone's sick and you know why, or you're kind of getting commentary on your life and the lives of those around you, and it tends to be accurate. And then, like most people who have something like this going on, life just presents opportunities where it comes out either through pressure or invitation. And that's kind of how it works.
So based on your experience, do you think that we all have these type of gifts?
I think we're all connected. I think we all have something. I believe that one of the things that I hold as kind of divine law is you're doing it right for you when you have no one to compare yourself to. So you can be inspired by someone else's way of navigating and someone else's way of seeing, but your way is your own. It's interesting. Stepping into this world is like going to Hogwarts, because you go into these rooms and you're magical, but you're not sure how, and then you have to kind of discover it, through life or journey experience or but generally you kind of already know. Like people say in the mythology of this, I kind of always knew, I just didn't know what to say or how to do it. And it's an experiential learning. So you learn it by doing. There's no book. I mean, people have written books, but mostly you learn by doing. Yeah.
How do you approach a client when it comes to you? What exactly modality and technique do you use to figure out what he needs or she needs?
If you're lucky, people know who you are and they already kind of have an idea. Um, I seem to be really, really good for people who have already started down the road and have more questions than answers, and a lot of times maybe aren't sure if they're crazy or not. Um, yeah, and a lot of times people just will walk up to you on the street. It's really funny. You're like a magnet for the thing. Um, I feel really protective of people who have empathic gifts and are maybe younger, or, because I know what it's like to, have something that you need to kind of share about and not know who to tell because people think you're weird or strange. So it's interesting because it's like a superpower, but you don't know that, so you're lonely because you don't know what to tell people about it. It's like coming out. It's a lot like coming out, actually. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So in the past, when we met, we discussed about various terminology, such
Yeah.
as humility rule for psychics, relational math,
Yeah.
compassion, navigation. Can you delve a little bit deeper into this terminology, please?
Sure. Yeah. Well, okay. Okay. So let's say you're psychic. There's a couple of things that go into that. And I think they're kind of coming into the fore culturally. Like, let's pretend what we're talking about is called ESP, just because it's a fun, less loaded word from the 70s and 80s, right? So you could describe ESP as a somatic response to trauma. So basically, you're sensitive, a lot is coming at you, and then you develop this way of reading what's coming at you, like you're searching the horizon for fire to make sure you're safe, but dimensionally, right? And so born out of stress or chaos. And so you could argue that the time that we're living in now is a very interesting time where a lot of people are discovering that they have this other awareness access, a lot in large part because of the way culture is unfolding, right? And a lot of things. So, okay, so how do you know that you're psychic? Well, it's really funny. When I was in college, I used to read palms as a joke, but I would never really look at the palm. I would just read the person and then just look at the palm and say things, and they tended to be accurate. And so it was a fun way to meet people. You know, what's really interesting is the relational field is now more alive than ever. And when I say the relational field, like when you look at the stars, the dark matter, the dark space between the stars, is full of information. Everything is alive. And in the same way, there's like a relational algebra or relational math that comes into play. And essentially, there are people, places, and things everywhere. You and two other people are standing in a room, right? And what matters is not the addition of all of you, but the collaboration, the combination of all of you creates something. It's very subtle and very accurate over time. So you want to be psychic. It's important to understand that you need to be humble and know that your experience, while valuable and amazing, does not stand in for everyone's experience. Everyone's experience is unique, noble, beautiful, and their own. And so you're kind of there to be almost like an energetic midwife for what is coming through for them. If you go into, that old Marshall McLuhan phrase with the medium and the message, right? You're a medium, right? But the message comes first in this. It's the reverse. The message comes first. The medium is secondary. If you're doing it, what we'd call right or balanced. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah.
In fact, this type of gatherings, if you feel as a psychic that you don't align with the vibration or energy of someone else or someone in the group, is there a particular practice or approach you do or someone should do in order to balance that or bring that person into the circle?
It's interesting. Well, when it's okay, so there are levels of healing, right? There's trauma and healing. Then there's you move up the tree of life. Then there's change. and you move the tree of life more, and there's just what is, right? And as you go farther up, people who, there are times early in your path where people who trigger you, let's say people trigger you, they really bother you, they frustrate you, you don't connect, your energies don't complement each other, but you don't have to change your shape for them. What's interesting is you have a lot to learn from them, as it turns out. There's a reason why you're triggering each other, and it's probably a good one. They're probably touching you somewhere intimate, energetically. They don't know. They have no idea. And it's great because it gives you kind of a map of what to look at. It's a kind of like a blessing. It's a wonderful thing. Does that make that answer?
Yes.
Yeah.
And I know that you attended a lot of, plant medicine ceremonies especially in South America.
Sure.
What can you tell us about those? What moved you much, or did you work with local shamans? How that worked for you?
Sure. Building on the relational math idea.
Yes.
Wherever you go, there are new frequencies to work with. There are new people. And it's interesting because when you start going to places where these things are legal to do this very, very sacred work, people also have traveled from far away to come sit with these, teacher medicines. And it's really interesting because when you can freely engage this type of ancient wisdom, you can learn everything. It's almost like people like me, I'm a Western male-bodied white guy, are being offered this amazing opportunity to engage this ancient divine intelligence and in our way bring this message to people. So that they can have their experience with it, and maybe together we can change the direction culture is going, right? So I was listening to somebody recently, and he said that this guy, his last name is Schlein, and he wrote a book called The Alphabet and the Goddess. And it's about it's his version of how we left the garden. And he says that culture is basically a father idea, right? So it shapes how you see things. And it's mind forward, and it's structured, and it's very black and white, and it's very practical. And here comes this divine intelligence, which is very female, right? And we are being given the opportunity to rethink or re-inform culture with this ancient wisdom. And so anytime I can go to a place and sit with people who have devoted their lives to this, because it's a very unique way to live. This is a really interesting person that I've met along the way. This guy, Romeo Shreta, who's the Dalai Lama's painter. And you want to talk about holding space, this person can basically connect you to the space channel by sitting near him, and his paintings are astonishing. I think his book is back there. He said something recently, because the Buddhists can be very irreverent. He said, negativity is a FedEx bag of shit. Don't sign for it. That guy who sits the Dalai Lama said that. So it's unique. And I believe that it's interesting to watch this type of wisdom come out and be part of common culture, because it's happening. It's in all the shows. It's a source of curiosity. And I think we're better off for it. So yeah, you go around the world, you meet people in the Amazon or in India or really anywhere. These things are popping up everywhere. And it's a blessing. It's wonderful. You're sitting there and there's a family from the town, and you get to talk to each other, and they tell you what makes them happy. And you're doing what humans are supposed to be doing, which is listening to each other. It's important.
Yes, in the wilderness, and right in the middle of nature, and healing nature. And going back to the negativity concept, I think we all believe, or majority of us on this path believe, that negativity is what triggers right now Gaia to behave the way she behaves, with the climate change and atmospheric triggers and all that stuff. So we really have to balance it through different type of mind thinking and mind bending approach, if I can say so.
Sure. Well, the big joke is Gaia doesn't need us.
Right.
So we have a very inflated sense of how important we are. It's adorable. And, you know, the Earth spirit is how old? 4 billion years old, I believe, something like that, some ancient age. So we are being invited to reconsider our relationship, and there's no guarantee that we will be here. In the clock of time, if you look at it as a wheel, we're like an eyelash, less than an eyelash on, you know, the spectrum of life having been on this planet. And you know, and even when was the Industrial Revolution? 1865, like 1880s. You know, so we've done a lot of damage in a little bit of time. So yay us. I do believe that this is probably where we get into controversial thinking. This COVID period was a wake-up call and a blessing, and here's why. We host many viruses in our body all the time. They are activated by environment, relational. They're activated by your relationship yourself to the environment. Our culture is sick. People have gotten sick. There are many stories around why that could have happened, but it exists, right? So what is the thing that happens in this context? You are in a position where you have to go home and be with yourself. Interesting. How comfortable is that for a lot of people? How uncomfortable is that for a lot of people? All of a sudden, you have to confront yourself, because when you die, right, there is no cruel and vengeful God that judges you. You've got to sit and you've got to actually do this. You've got to atone and answer for your life. So this is an awesome opportunity to change things. It's all kind of broken anyway. So, you know, negativity is interesting because there's a way through. And the way through is because Western medicine looks at the body as a machine, right? As a mechanistically, it seeks to just slice out and eliminate the thing that is the problem. Or in the case of pharmaceuticals, just bury the symptom and make the person a functional adult for the factory. What if we were to take a light worker approach? The approach would be, so your best way to navigate something like this is to go right into it and love yourself through it, because there's information there. If you were to remove a person's mistakes and their sorrows from their life experience, they would cease to be a unique individual. These are the things that make you. This is kind of what you sign up to come here to do. Yes. So negativity is a matter of perspective, of course, and also your sorrow is the storehouse of wisdom for your path in this life. If you were to access that in a loving way, you would realize that everything you need to know about yourself is in there. And everything that you can give others might have some sourcing in there. You know, that kind of old adage, you can only heal what you've healed in you, or you can only guide someone to a place that you understand. Or as a person who works with energy, it's participatory and experiential. So in order to be a good guide, you have to have made it through these things. There's nothing wrong with negativity. It's fine. It's just, if you really enjoy wallowing in it, that's a certain life path. If you want, it's you.
And the way I see it is that we have to learn how to not necessarily love unconditionally, but offer things to others unconditionally, not expecting anything in return, and change the mindset of those receiving it, that they shouldn't feel obligated to give us something. So just be open to receive our love or our whatever gesture of kindness we want to offer at that time, and just embrace that and open up and do it at their own to other people. And I think that ripple effect will change us at the global level.
Yeah. Well, here's something for you to consider. If you look outside and just look at a field, everything that you're seeing there is the result of play. All of it. Everything everywhere is the result of play. There's no, I'm picking a living being, there's no dragonfly that's nervous about getting to work on time, exactly. Right? So if you engage your fellow creatures in the spirit of joy and do like the Buddhists say, don't expect anything, watch what happens. Because, here's an interesting sidebar. Okay, Botox, right? Mm-hmm. People do Botox to smooth out their faces or whatever. What happens is, I'm trying to think of the name of the famous actress that said this. People have difficulty empathizing with you or seeing how you feel because you're not transmitting information with your face because it's all numb, right? So in a way, when you approach people in the spirit of joy and generosity, you're telling them how to treat you. It's a paradox. Yeah. So if you walk into a room and go, everyone is happy to see me all the time, it's the truth. Because I'm happy to see them.
Yes. And
what kind of day are you going to have?
Yeah.
Right?
Another event happened to me the other day. I was buying groceries and I was wearing the mask. Of course, you are indoors, you have to wear the mask. And the mom and with a kid passing by, the kid was munching on an ice cream, no mask, which was great. He was maybe 3 years old, but I smiled at him. He couldn't see my smile because I had the mask on. And right now it's sad because I like to smile at children, even on the street or in stores. And for me, I just dawned on me that very moment that kids won't see adults smiling if we're going to keep wearing masks indoors or, in other venues. So that's sad in a way because they will miss the type of empathy they can see in adults.
Yeah. Yeah. And so, yeah. And imagine if you were, there's all kinds of, but what if you're deaf and you read lips? It's like, how do you communicate? So this too will pass, what's interesting is my kids aren't getting a lot of time like that in the world, but we are reading Harry Potter and watching movies and eating ice cream every day. So life ain't so bad, and I get to spend this time with them. It's wonderful. And, it's interesting. It's the truth. How we treat another person is a direct reflection on how we feel about ourselves. Every relationship you're in is a reflection of where you are in your life. It's fascinating and true. Yes. Right? So the path to wisdom holds that you can never really blame somebody. What's that poem? Oh, I remember this poem. Hold on. It's old. I remember it was like the first poem I ever read, and I think I was 14. And I think it was in Rolling Stone, right? And the poem was, "You have no idea how I'm expecting you to turn my life around, and I'm sure as hell not going to tell you." Yay! So, that kind of, that would be an example of negativity that works against you, or the desire to be discovered, depending on your perspective. Yeah, empathy.
So, Matt, do you consider yourself a shaman or a facilitator?
Interesting question. These words are used a lot, and they're very loaded right now because they're searchable. So this is what I would say. A shaman is someone who can navigate dimensionally on your behalf. And so the odds are the shaman person would be the person traveling for you to go get answers. A facilitator is your lifeline here on Earth. So you are the person that travels, and they make sure you're safe. And they guide you through the experience, and they help you stay grounded, and they help you process what you've seen. So depending on the context, I suppose. And then when you add psychic work to that, psychic work is very different entirely. It's very different. So,
on a recent journey I experienced, something came to me quite unexpected, and I want to see if you can translate that for me.
Sure.
It was a void at one point, and two words were said: quantum stillness. And my interpretation was that that's the space when There is nothing there but a perfect channel, like a vacuum space between me and the divine or the consciousness, which creates that space of communication, and the download takes place at that moment. What do you think? What's your interpretation?
How did you feel?
Relieved, but at the same time, I was in that space. I didn't feel anything. I didn't hear anything. I was part of that vacuum.
So you were connected. You felt connected to it.
Yes.
So that's interesting. What did you get downloads when you were there?
Very funny downloads, like trademark the name, use it in such a way, in a way I wasn't told how, but just the trademark idea was quite funny for me. I smiled.
That's amazing. So here's something interesting. They, being the people, Terence McKenna has a joke that when we do these medicines, we're sailing to the new world, but there are already people there. So they work with you and giving you archetypes that you can handle and information that you can handle. So being there where you were in the kind of all is one place, this is what it feels like, I'll tell you. And you tell me if it resonates for you. Okay. That all is one place is it's like the divine knowing, the place of knowing, you're part of it, but you're not part of it. So you are uniquely yourself, but connected, right? That would be like the divine, the relationship to the divine posture. Quantum nothingness, is that what you called it? Quantum stillness. Okay, this is interesting. Quantum mechanics is almost touching magic because there is the effect of the observer on the outcome. So when you see or watching something happening in the divine field, your watching is affecting the outcome. So the lesson that's being shown to you there, or the message there is, look, here you are watching, and you're part of it, and it's still, which means you're safe. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
What it feels like. I mean, as I look at you while you're talking about it, you feel hopeful because it is a breakthrough. It's an invitation to the sacred part. And also, I'm just listening to your, you have a very wonderfully illustrative and active mind. And it sounds like they're trying to tell you to listen with other parts.
Mm-hmm.
Like listen with your body, because your body is the resonant antenna. And so I look forward to hearing about how your next 1 or 2 journeys goes, because I bet you $1 million you're going to start going to the fireworks show. You've been invited now, and you sat in the room, and you honored it, right? And they told us something you needed. Do you want to hear about the hierarchy of guides?
Please, go ahead.
Okay. So this is how you, as a person who does this work, this is how you can kind of gauge where your client is in terms of their path. This isn't like universal, but this is a way. So in order to teach you in a way that you feel safe and can receive, the divine will present using archetypes that are familiar to you. So a lot of times someone first starts doing this work and they see like relatives, like grandmothers, people who have passed, who come to say hi and tell them things. And then they go a little farther down the path and they start encountering maybe like heroes from movies or deities that they've read about. And then they go farther down the path, farther years later, and maybe these are just light beings. And they go farther, and maybe it's just a voice that they know is the part of them that participates in what we call spirit or God, right? And you'll notice that the messaging is still delivered, but the levels of what we call safety or familiarity change. And as you go farther into the work, they get more and more, they get less, they reference things you've seen before less often and become just what they are. Mm-hmm. And then, if you're lucky enough and persistent enough and open enough, maybe you lose your form too. And that's an interesting experience.
Yeah, I'm still new at it, so I have to keep doing it, refining, my senses to this. So yeah. I know that you both went. You went to both San Pedro and Ayahuasca ceremonies.
Mhm.
Which ones were much more powerful for you?
Very different. The Aya ceremonies are that's divine female, that's grandmother, right?
Yes.
And so with that, it's the dark side of the yin yang. It's your intuition. It's your heart. It's what your heart wants. It's what you need to know. It cleans your body and your energy signal. It's nurturing. It can also be, think of the wheel, right? It can be loving or stern, depending on where you need to be taught. It's extremely powerful and beautiful. It's a living, breathing relationship for me, as I'm sure everyone has their own unique, but there's no question that you're engaging a divine intelligence. People would say a goddess, right? And there's no question that divine intelligence has a voice, and that divine intelligence has things to teach you. And then when you get into a place of trust and you're comfortable with that, you can go places together. San Pedro is beautiful too. San Pedro is, of course, masculine, best taken in the sunlight. It's wonderful for removing blocks and kind of working with creative energy, divine energy, moving forward in time, so that you can kind of make plans. It's very direct. So a lot of people, when they're new to San Pedro, I mean, you can't generalize, but I've seen both. I've seen people just in ecstasy and having the most wonderful time in the world, like on the deck of the Titanic and the wind is blowing and you feel amazing. Not the sinking one, but the sailing one. And the wind is blowing and it's beautiful and amazing, the movie scene. And then there are people who, have to finally do that thing where they have to sit with that part of them that needs attention and love. And the way a father would go, hey, let's talk. It does that for 8 hours. It's hard to believe it's just a cactus.
Yes.
And, and I always am in awe. Back to Aya for a second. Just when you look at the rainforest and all of the thousands and hundreds of thousands of species and plants, how, out of all of that, did someone figure out that this and this go together? And when they do, these things happen. How did that happen? That's like one of nature's first magic tricks.
Yes, but in fact, I watched Psychedelica created by Ben Stewart, which was one of my guests recently. And he interviewed various people who have the knowledge of the Amazon.
Yeah.
The plants, they say that the plants talk to the indigenous people. The plants called them and say, use this mixture in order to connect to the spirits.
Yeah.
Because indeed it's very puzzling that out of the 80,000 species of plants, the indigenous people found these two to work with.
Yeah. I'm going to look up this guy's name because I want to tell you a story about shamanic initiation. That's my favorite one ever. But I want to credit this person, right? So pardon me 1 second. I'll tell you right now. I realized I was quoting the wrong name in my mind. Pardon me. Okay. Let's see, hold on. There it is. Okay, great. There is a man named Malidoma Some, who's I'm going to say this name wrong, Dagara, Dagara shaman from Africa. And he wrote this book called, I'm going to read the name of it, Of Water and the Spirit. And basically, it's an account of shamanic initiation in Africa. And they take, the people that are self-selected and these young people. And one of the things that they do is they sit the young person down in front of a plant. And they go, you can't leave until you're talking to this plant talks to you. and just sit there and sit there and sit there and sit there until it works. So I kind of get that story about the forest speaking to people.
Yes.
Yeah. It also goes into how when to finish their initiation, they have to travel into the spirit world and bring something, a physical object, back into this world from there to prove that they can travel. It's astonishing. You have to read it. It's one of the best things ever written about shamanic initiation.
I'll look into it.
Yeah.
So do you create your own sacred garden? Do you follow, the process of Hank Wesselman, or do you have a different approach when you journey?
It's always different. So, for example, I run every morning, and that's when I connect and talk to my guides every morning. And I ask questions, and they give me answers every single day. And I develop that over time. And then there's another process that I have. I've been calling it dipping. I don't know what else to call it, but I have a question or something I want to know. And then I just, I've been doing this since I was a kid, and I didn't know what it was until I started sharing it with people. And I'd be like, all right, ask me a question. And then I would go to this place and come back with the answer. And I would say, how long was I gone? And people go like 5 minutes. And I'd be like, it felt like an hour because when you can enter theta states and you can bend time. And then in that place, you can access like Akashic record type thinking. Mm-hmm. And as far as there's a spectrum. So when I'm working with clients as a psychic, it depends. What's really interesting is remote healing works. So you can actually go into the field and adjust someone's levels from far away and they feel it. It's really, really interesting. I had a session this last weekend with a certain teacher, and someone there was having a terrible time. She was kind of giving birth to herself, but she was renegotiating her contract with being alive. Let's just put it bluntly. And so I started getting information about what she was seeing and going through. And when it started feeling like she was getting desperate, lost, and scared, I asked the person sitting with her, would it be okay if we worked together? This is a true story. And she said, okay. And this is what happened. I'll tell you the movie. Something that I'm lucky enough to be able to do is to bring, pardon the language because it's clumsy, but bring energy through myself and then share it with people in a way that makes them feel good. That makes sense? So this particular person was panicking. And I said, is it okay if we work together? They said yes. Went in, connected to this person's field, saw her higher self, well, like kind of invite me and welcome me. And then I said, is it okay if I tune your heart? These are the words. I said, okay. So this happened. In my field of vision, everything went very, 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 very focused. Like I could see into the person's body, into where the heart was. And basically I was watching the body, that frame of the body go up and down and breathe. And I was working with this person, and just the feeling was, let's ground. Okay, you're here, you're loved. Okay. And as we work together and breathe together, I watched this person quiet and be soothed and land. Like literally, it's like pulling a balloon. Her spirit was floating over her body, and she was terrified because it feels like you're going to die. That's what the death feeling is. Mm-hmm. Your body, when your spirit is not connected, your body feels like it's time to go, right? Mm-hmm. That's kind of a natural process. And so she was in that place. And so like a balloon, we tuned her, helped with, the spirit down into the body, made sure it felt safe at home there, and just held that frequency, that connection, and watched this person just calm. It was a beautiful thing. And then, they were here and they could do more of that really, really hard, really, really deep work that they were doing. It's probably the most beautiful part of doing this work, actually, is that helping people feel safe as they transform, Yeah.
I know you're working on a project very dear to you, Spiritwalker, which is a TV show.
Yeah.
Please tell us what it's all about.
It's so much fun. Okay, so what's going to happen. My foot fell asleep. Sorry, rocking computer. So it's so much fun. So this is what I'm crazy. And so what I do is I get ideas from source and then I execute them based on their guidance. So they said to me, you're going to make a show. And I went, what? And they said, do this. It's going to be about a guy who rides motorcycles and travels the world and has experiences with other modalities, people who are experts in other modalities. And the idea is you're demonstrating for everyone watching that we are all connected this way, right? Mm-hmm. So don't I make a motorcycle jacket for myself? And then I get on a plane and go to Germany and I pitch the show with this top TV producer. I don't even, like, I'm just like, okay, there we go. And I'm walking into the restaurant with my biker jacket on, with my battle vest or whatever they call it. It says Spiritwalker on the back. And I pictured the name of the show and I said, what if Anthony Bourdain was psychic? And what if, this is the, right? And what if he rode a motorcycle, different kinds in different countries, you don't have to fly the motorcycle everywhere, just to meet people and experience how healers work. So it's a Maori matriarch in New Zealand. You know, there's pressure on her from the land, from people invading. This spiritual connection that they've developed over time helps them process, you know, their relationships to the profound, helps them understand what's happening and gives them hope for the future. And things are sacred for them over time. Can you please teach me how you see? It would be an honor. And then this person gets to tell her story. And I get to be there as the witness standing in for the, you know, Western world that's emerging. And then maybe if we're lucky, we get to work together with energy in the field. Wouldn't that be so beautiful? Yes. So that's the idea. So we're going to build a show around the tree of life, the Kabbalah tree of life as a model. And we're going to include all these things we're talking about. So there's going to be like fringe mathematics and EDM and teacher plants and people who are energy healers all over the world. And I think it's a really fun, unique way to get these stories out there, because we are all connected this way, right?
Yes, yes.
And we're all weird. We all have this kind of like, I might be magic thing happening, right? Look at us talking, right? I know you're magic. I've sat with you. And so, the world seems to be receptive. So let's have fun. Like, the whole point is this is supposed to be fun, right?
Yeah. And this is a perfect show for Gaia. So I really hope you'll pitch it to them and they will accept it, and everyone will have the chance to watch it there.
Well, maybe you could tell your people.
So what's the status right now? Where are you with the show? How much?
Well, we have a DP. We're putting together the show Bible. So motorcycle, hold on, go away. Homemade motorcycle. He's gonna die. No, he's not. It looks like he's riding around a broomstick with a gas tank on it. So, okay. So the show is, we're making the show Bible, which is like a pilot and a narrative that goes across a bunch of episodes. And then we're going to shoot a trailer, I think, in the American desert. We're not sure, but that's what we're hoping for. Nice. And, you know, on Harleys. And yeah, that's where we're at right now. I mean, because of the world being what it is, it looks like we're going to do a lot. We might just abandon shooting in America at all and just shoot everything in Canada. Because Canada is beautiful, and it's kind of not the first thing you think of, and there are benefits to shooting here. Like there's you can get funding, and it's a great way to get started anyway. And also Canada's really cool. You know, it's not just America's hat. It's actually a really cool place. So yeah.
Saying that. So are you planning of involving First Nations and here in Canada and indigenous tribes in US also?
Yes. My mother-in-law, my wife's mother, works with the First Nations community here at Cape Croker. And she sits with the shamans and does sweat lodges, and, you know, it's a longer conversation. So, you know, it's really important that the way this show proceeds, I'm saying it's going to be fun, but it's also reverent. We're here to learn. We're here to listen. I mean, that's kind of the main idea. Sure, that there's Indiana Jones, you know, explorer, discovery stuff. Who doesn't like that? But in the end, it's kind of a secret delivery of ancient knowledge that's transmitted with reverence and respect for the people who are sharing it.
Yeah.
So, which I think is a major shift.
Yeah, and preserve for sure.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
this is one way to do it for sure.
Yeah. And to honor them, you know.
Exactly.
So
yeah. You said that you work with clients. What's the best way for anyone who is in need to reach out to you and do this type of energy healing?
Okay. I'm at wearespiritwalker.com. That's it. That's my website. You can reach me there. And yeah, whatever you need. If you are starting to have uncanny dreams that are coming real in your life, if you are getting, let me tell you a story, actually. This will really help. Illustrate something. So I always had this interesting intuition growing up. And then when I was young, I had a wonderful case of something called viral meningitis. It was lovely. Almost killed me. And when I came out of that, I think I was 12. Looking back now with hindsight, maybe I wanted to characterize that as like some kind of initiatory experience, because when I came out of that, all of a sudden life was different. There was kind of this extra level of information that came with everything. And it was like I'd be walking down the street and someone's reading me a movie script of all the lives of the people around me. And there were, you know, their joys and their trials and their tribulations. And it just kind of was this other aspect of being alive that was scary and then ended up being beautiful later. And I didn't know what to make of it. And then I took a chance and went to this ceremony over there in California. And I met someone who ended up being a great teacher and a great friend later. And she said, I think that you're an Akashic record keeper. And I was like, what does that even mean? Like, what are you talking about? And then she said, do you do this? Do you do that? Do you have feelings like this? Do you have experiences like that? What's your experience here like? And sure enough, it was like checking boxes with her. She was very experienced and she said, okay, that's what you are. And I guess I'm still learning what that means, but there's a lot there. And so if there are people out there who maybe are having these uncanny experiences that are difficult to quantify, and it feels like it might be this thing, and it feels good, and you want to know more, I'm the guy to talk to. I can help you.
Nice. Okay, so everyone, please give it a shot if you are in need. Matt can help you. And I want to add one more talent to your palette and your diverse creativity is writing. I know I listened to some of your writings. When you're going to bless us with a volume of these writings, which are the quintessence of your plant medicine ceremonies?
Okay, there's a plan to write a book during quarantine, like Jack Kerouac did. Just sit down and write for 2 weeks and write everything until it just let it all come out, just channel and let it all come out. And I will keep you posted. But I know the title, but I can't say it yet.
Okay, but you know, I heard that they're going to lift the quarantine very soon. So you have to, you know.
I'm going to pretend that I have to quarantine anyway so I can go write it, because it's like it wants to come out. It's really interesting because, you know, that thing about studying with cartographers, right? In Western medicine or Western culture, like Jung was a massive cartographer. He's a maker of maps to help people understand the unconscious, what he called the unconscious. And my teacher, who's from Peru, their maps are around meaning, experience, and heart-centered navigation, which we definitely need more of in this culture. I would love to kind of blend those two. I was a student of Freud's for a while there until I figured out that no one ever really gets better. And so then I was like, well, thank you, Freud, for the wonderful experience. But I believe that you can write a book, and in that book you can kind of put these maps for people that care to see them, and then they can use them to get places that make them feel better and bring people together. So that's the kind of the idea. And it has to be entertaining because I could tell you stories. Like, you ready?
Yes, please.
Sitting with Gene Simmons from Kiss and turning into a total fanboy and saying, Gene, I love your record. I got it when I was in second grade. And he goes, thanks. My mom liked her new house. And I went, oh, you're not nice. Or, I mean, playing guitar with Peter Murphy, who was this, I'm just sharing because it's fun. But like, basically, when you understand how energy works, you can kind of do anything. Like, you can kind of see how it works, and you can have this really interesting, strange, fun life. And we all know that the divine loves it when you are your weirdest, most authentic self. You amazing writer of your third book. You're astonishing. I'm amazed. You're totally talented. I'm so grateful that you interviewed me. You're amazing. Thank you.
Thank you.
It's an honor. Yeah.
Matt, it's been a pleasure. Any final thoughts?
I just, you know what? Of a lot of the people I've met, you are somebody that I am really curious to see what happens to, how life happens to you. I'm really, really fascinated because you've got this spark and this light in you, and you abide it. And like you said, you just do. And look how far into it you are. And look at people searching you out. Like, something that you're doing works. And I'm really, it makes me happy, and it makes my heart glad to see you do your thing. So, thank you.
Yeah, I think the divine is looking out for me, and I have to stick to the message I get. And if I do that, I think everything will turn out well.
Yep, of course it will. You know why? Because they want you to win. It's really interesting. The divine wants you to win. You are held and you are treated like a present all the time. And when you accept that, everything works out just fine.
Thank you, Matt. Once again, it's been a pleasure.
Cheers, my brother. I look forward to seeing you in the field.
Thank you. And for those who watch us, please share with others, and subscribe if you haven't done so far. And go to my Patreon account, become a member, and you'll get access to exclusive content. Until next time, love and gratitude.